Hello, this is John Casey, author of Baby Babble Wordplay, Unlock Your Child's Genius. And today's talk on this video is explaining nature versus nurture. We're going to talk the long game. So, intelligence, as you may or may not already know, has two parts to it. It has the internal, which is the DNA, the physical, the chemical. That's our nature. That's what our bodies and our minds, our brains are made out of. And then it has the external environmental nurture element of it. So from this high quality graph, we're just going to assume that this represents our total body right here, our DNA. It's the part of us that we can only change very little. And then the environment is everything else that is part of our learning environment. So we have inputs that go into us, and then we have our outputs. So if our outputs are, say, we want to learn the piano, our inputs have to be practicing the piano. And then depending on what's in our environment that blocks this or accelerates it, that's going to determine our output. So for the piano, if we're in an environment with other people that play the piano and other people that encourage us, this is going to be the environment part. The input is our actual effort. The environment are the things that add or detract from our inputs. There's our bodies, and the output is going to be a result of that. So if we have it so that I have a highly positive environment, then the output is positive. If it's a highly negative environment, then the output is negative. So if it's positive here, it adds to it. If it's negative here, it subtracts it. But as far as the inputs go, if my input, say, is 100 days of practice, right? That goes into it, and the output is 100 plus or minus. But if my input is 0, then the output is also 0. And the plus or minus doesn't really have very much to do with it at that point. So in the absence of inputs, the environment doesn't matter because it's only going to add or subtract to what the inputs are. The reason this relates to intelligence is one of the big issues, one of the big points of disagreement among people is that DNA is everything when it comes to intelligence, some of them say. And then other people will say, no, it's the environment. But we can take some simple examples, such as learning a foreign language, learning the piano, learning to do anything. And we can tell that if you don't have any inputs, if you never practice it, you're never going to get a result of learning that thing. This points strongly to the environment as being a major cause of failure or success. That has nothing to do with the genes, nothing to do with DNA. About half the population that takes IQ tests is going to be labeled as inferior or below average. And the unfortunate part of that is that this produces learned helplessness in them over time. They're continually told they're inferior, they're slow, they're below average, and they believe it. And as soon as they believe it, it changes the environment. Everything becomes a negative because they were told that they're below average and they believe it, must be true, so they get lower results regardless of the inputs. There's irrefutable scientific evidence to this. Some people just choose to ignore it. You can find some videos on YouTube that show examples of it in real time. The real important part of this is if we want to maximize our outputs for learning, we need to maximize the environment. We also need to try to maximize the inputs. So for language acquisition, for communication skills, if we decide that we are going to teach our children language, such as English, and we decide we'll teach them, say, my choice, say 300 words, can't write with my left hand, 300 words the first year. It goes into the environment. plus or minus, and we come out with 300 words, plus or minus, right? If we decide, no, we'll just let them do their own thing, we'll let the children do what they're going to do, they don't need us, they can pick it up on their own, and we make it so our inputs as parents is 0, then we're going to get 0 over here too, plus or minus. You'll pick up some incidental stuff from other sources, but the real issue then is that these kids will be tested later and they'll be told by the professionals that it's due to a DNA issue. They won't even look at the environment. These kids will be graded, judged as inferior, stupid, slow learning, whatever other derogatory terms you want to use. And they don't go back and say, how many words did you try to teach them that first year or the second year? And so what happens is they'll get put into this vicious cycle of learned helplessness where they're continually put down, but they have 0 inputs. They're not learning the thing because they're not being exposed to it. And so talking the long game, which is the whole point of it, if we continually increase the inputs and provide a positive environment, we're going to get much higher results than if we have no inputs and a negative environment. The purpose and the basis of the things I'll be teaching is to try to maximize both the inputs and the environment. We don't need to concern ourselves at all with the DNA because we can't change it. So we're not even going to worry about it. We are what we are, and that's what we've got, and that's what we're going to work with. And as soon as you make that decision, you can immediately start to work on the environment and the inputs. And both of those can be maximized to the maximum benefit of your child. So if we do this year after year after year for 18 years, or just the first 5 years before the kids get into kindergarten, we're looking at a very long-term time frame of maximums and maximums. And you're going to get a much higher result. They'll be much more able to take care of themselves. They'll be much more able to benefit the world around them, to have a good, successful life. And it really starts with acknowledging that DNA is not the only useful item when intelligence goes, and that regardless of whatever we say it is, it just doesn't matter. We have to work on the environment. We have to work on the things that we can work on, which is environment and inputs. And I'll be giving you as many of those as I can. I hope I haven't messed up the video too much by the highly technical drawing, but that's where we are right now. So thanks for watching. Hope it's helped out.